Welcome back from the ad break, and let's continue with our lesson. Let's look at number 2 of our application questions. So NIMS's flight from Johannesburg to China is 7 hours long. The plane travels to its destination that is 10,542 kilometers away. At what speed is the plane traveling? So remember, we have our diagram that is going to help us with our formula, and the question asks at what speed. So we are calculating for speed. And when I look at my diagram, the formula is going to be distance divided by time. So we've been given the distance there, and that is 10,542 kilometers, and I am going to divide this by the time, which is 7 hours. When you punch that into your calculator, you should be getting an answer of 1,506 kilometers per hour, and that is the speed that this plane was traveling at. Now, the plane that NIMS is on has 5 air hosts, 2 pilots, and 120 passengers. What is the ratio of pilots to air hosts? So remember the ratio, we are comparing quantities of the same kind. So we are comparing people to people. Some are pilots and some are air hosts. So how many pilots do we have? That is 2. And we are saying pilots to air hosts. And how many air hosts do we have? That is 5. Remember, when we are working with ratio like this, we have to make sure that it is in its simplest form. And when we look at 2 and 5, we cannot simplify it any further. This is its simplest form. That means that is where we end. The ratio of pilots to air hosts is 2 is to 5. Let's move on to number 4. What is the ratio of passengers to pilots? So how many passengers did we have there? We had 120 passengers. So 120 passengers. And how many pilots did we have? That is 2 pilots. But when we look at these numbers, they can actually be simplified even further. And we simplify them by finding the highest common factor. And between 120 and 2, the highest common factor is 2. So when we divide each side by 2, it becomes simplified to 60 is to 1. So that means that the ratio of passengers to pilots is 60 passengers is to 1 pilot. So remember, the plane has 5 air hosts, 2 pilots, and 120 passengers. So number 5 asks us there, what is the ratio of passengers to air hosts? Again, how many passengers do we have? That is 120. And how many air hosts do we have? That is 5. Again, for us to simplify this, we need to find the highest common factor. And the highest common factor between 120 and 5 is actually 5. So when we divide each side by 5, we will get 24 is to 1. So 120 divided by 5 is 24, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So the ratio of passengers to air hosts is 24 passengers is to 1 air host. Let's continue to number 6. Now we are still on this plane, the same amount of passengers, same amount of pilots, same amount of air hosts. Now the passengers are males and females, right? The ratio of males is to females is 3 is to 5. Calculate how many males there are. So this is males is to females. And that ratio is 3 is to 5. Now, how do we find out how many females there are and how many males there are? It's quite simple, actually. So we are going to look at this ratio. That is 3 is to 5. And what we're going to do is that we are going to add these two numbers. So we are going to say 3 plus 5, and that gives us an answer of 8, right? So 3 plus 5 is 8, and that 3 and 5 comes from the ratio 3:5. Then the next thing that we are going to do is that we are going to take the total amount of passengers that we are working with. So how many passengers were we working with here? We were working with 120 passengers. So we are going to take this 120 and we are going to divide it by 8. So punch into your calculator, what is 120 divided by 8? If your calculator is saying 15, then you are absolutely correct. 120 divided by 8 is 15. Now here's where you have to listen very carefully. What are we going to do with this 15? We are going to multiply each side of the ratio by 15. So 15 multiplied by 3, that gives us an answer of 45. And 5 multiplied by 15, that gives us an answer of 75. So this means that there are 45 males and there are 75 females. But you need to check this. Remember, everything in maths you need to verify. The total amount of passengers are 120. And if my calculations are saying that there are 45 males and 75 females, I need to check that. So that is 45 males and 75 females. When I add that together, 5 ones and 5 ones is 10. That is 0 ones and 1 10. Then we have 4 tens and 7 tens. That gives me 110. And we add the other 10, which is going to give me 120. That is 2 tens and 100. Can you see that the total brings me back to 120 passengers? So this means that this ratio is actually correct. How many males do we have? It means that we have 45 males, according to our ratio and calculations. I hope that was easy for you to understand. Let's move on to the next question. While in China, Nims meets a friend named Louis. So Louis decides to go back to South Africa with Nims. Now Louis has 470 yen in his bank account. How much does he have in South African rands? Now, as a reminder, we had said that 1 yen is actually equivalent to 2 rands and 46 cents. So now we need to calculate how much in South African rands will Louis have in his bank account. So we have 1 yen is to 2 rands and 46 cents. We need to get to 470 yens. How did we move from 1 yen to 470? Do you remember how we move in our ratios or in our rates? Sorry, we are going to multiply by 470. That means even with the 2 rand and 46 cents, we are going to multiply by 470. And on your calculator, when you say 2 rands and 46 cents multiplied by 470, that is going to give you an answer of 1,156 rands and 20 cents. This means that Louis is going to have 1,156 cents and 156 rands and 20 cents. Then we have Louis, who decides now to take half of his money in rands and invest it. So do you remember how much he had in rands? That was 1,156 rands and 20 cents. Now he decides to take half of that and invest it. So for us to find half of that value, we are going to divide by 2. And when we divide that amount by 2, we have now 570 8 rands and 10 cents. So he decides to invest it. He opens an account that offers him an interest of 5% per annum on simple interest. How much will he have after 2 years? So remember, simple interest will be P for our principal amount, R for our rate, and T for our time or our period. And we are going to divide all of that by 100. The amount that he invests is 578 rands and 10 cents. We multiply that by the interest rate, which is 5, and we are going to multiply that by the amount of time, which is 2. Not forgetting that we need to divide all of that by 100, and don't forget to use your brackets. The answer that I'm going to get here, if I punch this all in my calculator, I am going to get an answer of 57 rands and 81 cents. This is the interest that he is going to gain after 2 years. But how much in total does he have? We are going to take that 578 rands and 10 cents, and we are going to add the 57 rands and 81 cents. In total, Louis is going to have 635 rands and 91 cents in his bank account. Let's quickly go to an ad break, and then we'll see you just now.